Keefe writes a book, allegedly. Right? Allegedly, he writes this book called Contradictory Legend in 2019. You know what happened with the book? Right? Even he confesses to it. What you find is, no charges filed. What is going on? District Attorney's Office doesn't want to charge the case. No charges filed when the interview happens. No charges are filed when the book is written. What is going on? 5 years goes by. And nothing is going on with the case. But Detective Mogg says he's closing it out. Detective Mogg turns around and applies for what's called a search warrant. Now what a search warrant is that in July of 2023, around that time period, a search warrant requires a police officer to get permission from a judge to basically violate the sanctity and privacy of your home. Right? There's got to be legal reasons for it. He's got to go through that process, and he's got to ask permission from a judge in order for him to get that. And what he does in that search warrant application is he assures the judge, hey, what we are looking for is in the home. The thing that's going to help us solve this crime, who killed Tupac, is in the home. And he signs an affidavit, and that's important. I want you to remember this. He signs an affidavit attesting to what he's saying to this judge to be true and correct. What he says is, I think we have evidence in Keefe D's home that will solve the murder of Tupac. So up until this point, they've got all these statements. They can't be corroborated. So now they're saying, we have evidence in this home that we think probably is in the home. And as a result, we're going to find this evidence. It's going to help us solve this case. What I'm going to tell you right now is that you don't find it. And in the meantime, Detective Mogg retires. He now becomes Mr. Mogg. And Mr. Mogg goes to the grand jury. And in the grand jury, it's a secret proceeding. We're not there. The defense, isn't sitting like we are here. It's just the prosecutors. There's a panel of people called the grand jurors, and you have people come up and they testify under oath. And there's really no way for the defense to challenge any of it because it's done in secret. We don't really know about it. But in this particular case, Mr. Mogg is sworn to testify truthfully. And you know what Mr. Mogg does? He just reads pages of the book into the record. Of a book into the record. He never documents in any of his efforts any verification of the book before he reads it into the record. He walks up, gets on the stand, and reads the book as if it's the gospel truth. And that's what he does. He treats that book like it's fact. Now, what you're going to find out about Mr. Mogg is that he never wrote a report. So when he took over the case in 2017, all the way up until when he retired in 2023 and was in front of the grand jury, he never wrote a report. Not one time. Not like Detective Becker, and not like Detective Long, and not like any other police officer who does their job. This man never writes a report. In fact, what happens is he transitions, right? He's a Metro detective, he retires, and then he gets a job working as an independent contractor for the district attorney's office as an investigator. And as an investigator, he doesn't have any police power. He continues to work as a lead detective on this case. Even though the procedure is you hand your file and your officer's report to the next detective in line. That's how this works. But he keeps the file for himself and he starts billing against the file after he retires as a detective with Metro. Because now he's an independent contractor. That's important to know. Why is that important? Because what the evidence is going to show you is that he backloaded his work. And when he finally writes a report, it's not an officer's report, it's an investigative report that spans from 2018 to current, and we just received it about 5 weeks ago. The importance of capturing everything you do, the accuracy that you would need to be able to be in court on a murder case, not some type of, college paper that you forgot to do and then the last second just put something together and, get it out the door. Mr. Mogg does not do any of that. That's going to be important later for you to consider. Because according to that report that he submitted 5 weeks ago or so, he never verified the book. According to that report, he never investigated any of the alternate theories that were out there, and you're going to hear about those alternate theories. There are people who have developed over time answers to the question, who did this and why? He never looked into any of it. Which I think, at the end of the day, don't you want to see what's out there to help you with your investigation? And according to his report, he did more on the case after he became an investigator than he did before when he was a detective. What I'm going to tell you right now is what you're going to find when you listen to all the evidence that his work was biased, sloppy, and incomplete. Those are the three things you're going to determine for Mr. Mogg. Now, because of the fact that in terms of the evidence itself, he doesn't have much, the state's going to lean pretty heavily on their witnesses. And I'm going to give you a sampling of the type of people you're going to run across in this trial based upon their witness list in this case. First person is this guy named Reggie Wright Jr. He's the security company for Death Row Records. And what he is a felon. Second of all, you're also going to find that he's a former Compton police officer. He worked for Compton PD for about 5 years, and apparently he got disabled. At some point, he becomes a felon. You're going to learn about that. And his father, like I said before earlier, Reggie Wright Sr. was the head of the Compton PD gang unit. What you're also going to learn about Reggie is that, once again, he was supposed to be protecting Suge Knight. Where was he the night of the shooting? In addition to that, he orders his security team to not carry firearms the night of the shooting, before the shooting took place. What you're also going to learn is, he wasn't even around when the shooting occurred. So the principal, meaning the person he should have been protecting the most, would have been Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records. This man was nowhere to be found. He was sitting at a club called 662 down the street, waiting for Suge to show up, while he left his people that were working for him unarmed in the vehicles behind Suge Knight. And when push comes to shove, he orders his people to lie to police during their investigation. That's going to be called by them. That guy's going to be called by them. In addition to that, when everything was said and done, Suge Knight went to prison because he was not supposed to be in a fight in Las Vegas. He violates his release. Guess who takes over Death Row Records? Reggie Wright Jr. Now, the state is also going to bring in other people with unreliable positions, including criminal histories, financial motivations, and inconsistent statements. That are the people and the quality of the evidence that you're going to listen to in this case. Just to give you another example, there's going to be an individual by the name of Devonta Dirt Rockley. Who is he? He's been a paid informant for years. You're going to hear that they have paid him to be an informant. He will, of course, say whatever he needs to say to avoid his own criminal actions, but his testimony will be inconsistent. And that's what you have to really rely on. Is what exactly is he going to say, and can you even believe it? In addition to that, you're also going to learn about a disgraced LAPD detective by the name of Greg Kading. The state told you about him. He wrote a book. He benefited off of what was happening with regards to Keithy. Now, Greg Kading, he stole the file. What you're going to learn is he actually stole the file. He took the Tupac and the Biggie case files and walked out the door. This is an LAPD detective that they are using, or one of the people that they're going to be focusing on to establish their case. He writes the book, and then he holds himself out as the person who solves the murder. That's Greg Kading. That's the LAPD detective. Now, what you're also going to learn is Greg Kading, when he was a detective with LAPD, was basically caught manipulating witnesses. And because he was caught manipulating witnesses, it led to cases being overturned as a result. There was a court finding on this issue. A judge determined that. And there we go. That's Greg Kading. That's a witness in this case from that. Now, your challenges, right? I mean, gosh, we're sitting here, there's cameras in the room. I mean, things going on. But it's really time. Like, how do you, as jurors, try to figure out time on this case? There's been so much time. Delays. By who, though? And there's corruption. How do you look at your information that you're receiving with anything more than just like skepticism? Like, you're going to look at this stuff and be like, well, I mean, you have a motive to lie. You have a motive to tell or deceive. And it's because at the end of the day, there's not actual facts. When you get past all the talk and me talking, just look at the actual facts. What facts do you have to support any of what KPD said or any of his interviews or in the book? When you look at this relevant timeline again, and you see the length of time, ask yourself, what facts do they have to even put KPD in a car in Las Vegas on September 7th, 1996? What facts? When you look at the video that happened at the MGM, look for them. Try to find them in there. Try to find any of the other individuals. Remember, he said there's 3 individuals in the car with him and Orlando Anderson. Orlando's in the video because he's getting beat up. Find any of those other individuals on the videos of the MGM. Look for evidence that shows that KPD was even in Las Vegas on the night of the fight. Receipts, credit cards, a picture of him standing next to somebody else, maybe watching the fight from another casino. Something. Give me something. In the book, you're going to learn that KPD says that he was at the fight. He was sitting on the second row. He was sitting with all the celebrities, and he's dressed in his finest gear. There's not one iota of proof that he was ever at that fight. But you know who does show an iota of proof that he was at the fight? Suge Knight. Suge Knight was raided, and at some point, there is a ticket stub to that fight, the Tyson versus Selden fight with Suge Knight's possession. Because he went to the fight. And you would think, a fight like this, you want to show everyone that you were at the fight. There's no evidence at all that man was even at the fight. When we take fact versus fiction, really at the end of the day, what you're going to hear from witnesses that will testify to this is that KPD was known to do this. That's the testimony you're going to hear in this case. That's what you're going to hear about that man right there. And so you have to ask yourself the question. If I just say things, is that going to end up being one of those things where I'm going to be hemmed up for a murder if I just keep repeating a fiction? If I keep repeating that? The answer is no. You have to corroborate everything I say in order for it to be true. Otherwise, it's just that. Or fiction. And at the end of all the time we spend together, what you're going to find is that the state cannot prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt the claim that KPD had anything to do with a first-degree murder with use of deadly weapon. There's no facts to that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sandford. State, at this time, are you prepared to proceed with your case in chief, or did you need a brief break?
Just need a break to bring the evidence in, so maybe give the jury a few minutes.
Sure, we can do that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we are going to take a 15-minute break. During this recess, you are admonished not to talk or converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected to the trial, or read, watch, or listen to any report or commentary on the trial of any person connected with this case by any medium of information, including without limitation, newspaper, television, internet, and radio, or form or express any opinion on any subject connected with the trial until the case is finally submitted to you. We'll have you guys back here at 11 a.m. Please rise for the jury. For the record, the jury has exited the room. Is there anything we need to address outside the presence?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, you guys are just going to work on marking those exhibits so it goes a little smoother.
I was going to bring the box in. We've already given our list and it's marked, and then I just need to grab the exhibits for the witnesses today.
Sounds good. All right. And then we'll give you about an hour, or when we return about an hour and 15 before we have the break.
We're still on the record, so everybody still needs to remain quiet.
I have to stop control.